The secret history of the greenback, the king of currencies. The hook, the global illusion. Imagine you're standing in a bustling market in Tokyo, a coffee shop in Paris, or a gas station in the middle of the Sahara Desert. There is one piece of paper and one alone that everyone will recognize and almost everyone will accept: the US dollar. But why? It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver. It's essentially a piece of linen cotton fiber with some green ink and the faces of dead presidents. Yet, it commands the world's navies, prices every barrel of oil, and dictates the wealth of nations. This isn't just history, it's the greatest magic trick in the history of economics. Today, we pull back the curtain on the secret history of the greenback. Chapter 1. The chaos before the crown. Before the dollar was the dollar, America was a financial mess. During the Revolutionary War, the Continental Congress printed Continentals to fund the fight against the British. Without any tax base or gold to back them, they became worthless almost overnight, leading to the phrase, "not worth a Continental." For decades, the U.S. was a wild west of money. Private banks printed their own notes. At one point, there were over 8,000 different types of dollars circulating in America. If you traveled from New York to Ohio, your money might be rejected. The turning point came during the Civil War. 1861, President Abraham Lincoln needed to fund the Union Army but didn't have the gold. His solution? The Legal Tender Act. The government printed $450 million in notes that weren't backed by gold but by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. Because the backs were printed in green ink to prevent counterfeiting, the greenback was born. The 1944 coup. Fast forward to 1944. World War II is ending, and Europe is in ruins. The world's financial leaders met at a hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to decide what the post-war world would look like. While other nations were broke, the U.S. held 80% of the world's gold. The deal was struck. The world's currencies would be pegged to the U.S. dollar, and the U.S. dollar would be pegged to gold at $35 an ounce. The dollar was now the world's reserve currency. If you wanted to trade internationally, you needed dollars. This gave the U.S. an exorbitant privilege. It could print the world's money, and as long as people wanted to trade, they had to accept it. Chapter 3. The Nixon Shock of 1971. By the late 1960s, the system started to crack. The U.S. was spending billions on the Vietnam War and the Great Society programs. Other countries, specifically France, started to get nervous. They realized there were more dollars in circulation than there was gold in U.S. vaults. They began demanding their gold back. On August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on national television and did something unthinkable. He closed the gold window. Overnight, he severed the link between the dollar and gold. The dollar was no longer a receipt for a metal, it was fiat currency money because the government said it was money. Economists predicted the dollar would collapse. Instead, it did something even more cunning. It found a new anchor. Chapter 4. The Petrodollar Pact. In the 1970s, the U.S. struck a secret deal with Saudi Arabia. The terms were simple. The U.S. would provide military protection and hardware to the Saudi kingdom. In exchange, Saudi Arabia would price and sell their oil exclusively in U.S. dollars. Think about the genius of this move. Every country in the world needs energy. If you want to buy oil to power your factories or cars, you must first buy U.S. dollars. This created a permanent, global demand for the greenback. Regardless of what was happening inside the American economy, the dollar wasn't backed by gold anymore, it was backed by black gold. Chapter 5. The Digital Empire and the Future. Today, the secret history has moved from paper to pixels. Most dollars in existence aren't even physical, they are entries in a digital ledger controlled by the Federal Reserve. The dollar faces new threats. The rise of the BRICS. Nations like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are actively seeking ways to trade without the dollar to avoid U.S. sanctions. A cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, was born as a direct response to the 2008 financial crisis, aiming to be a digital gold that no government can print. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The Fed is exploring its own digital dollar, which could change how we understand privacy and transaction control forever. At the conclusion, why the dollar still reigns despite the de-dollarization headlines you see every day. The dollar remains the king. Why? Because of trust and liquidity. When the world gets scared, investors don't run to the yuan or the ruble, they run to the U.S. Treasury. The dollar is the least bad option in a world of uncertainty. Its secret isn't found in a vault or a hidden document, it's found in the fact that the entire global financial system is built on its back. If the dollar falls, the world as we know it falls with it. The greenback has survived civil wars, world wars, and the end of the gold standard. Whether it can survive the digital age is the next great chapter in its history. Visual cues for your video. Intro. Fast-paced montage of global stock exchanges and printing presses. 1860s. Sepia-tone photos of the Civil War and old broken banknotes. 1944. Black and white footage of the Bretton Woods Conference. 1971. Nixon's famous televised speech. Modern day. Neon-lit digital tickers and 3D renders of gold versus oil barrels.